It's a new year and a new chance for you to make a fresh start with your compliance. For it, we're going to be bringing you a daily tip, strategy, or idea that you can use to improve your program. Here's your host, Tom Fox, the Compliance Evangelist.
And now a word from our sponsor, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting case closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, 2023, The Year in Compliance. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program. Each January, I run a podcast series that gives you one thing you can do at little or no cost for your compliance program with 3 key highlights. And once again, we're doing it in January 2024. I know you'll enjoy 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program. Day 16, Effective and Tailored Compliance Training. One of the key goals of any compliance program is to train employees in awareness and understanding of the FCPA, your specific company compliance program, and to foster and create a culture of compliance. While it seems axiomatic that compliance training is a mainstay of any best practices compliance program, the conversation around training has evolved over the years. The FCPA Resource Guide, 2nd edition, started the conversation with the following, quote, "Compliance programs cannot work unless effectively communicated throughout a company. Accordingly, the DOJ and SEC will evaluate whether a company has taken steps to ensure that relevant policies and procedures have been communicated throughout the organization, including periodic training and certification of all directors, officers, relevant employees, and, where appropriate, agents and business partners." Beginning in the fall of 2016 through the announcement of the FCPA Enforcement Pilot Program, the DOJ began to talk about whether you have determined the effectiveness of your training. The conversation continued with the 2017 evaluation, where it asked, how has the company measured the effectiveness of training? The point has bedeviled many compliance professionals, yet is now a key metric in the government for evaluating compliance training. It further evolved in the 2023 ECCP with the mandate training must be, quote, "truly effective," end quote. Finally, the training must be presented in a language in which the employees understand, which means in a local language if the training is outside the U.S. or other non-English speaking countries. Also raised beginning in the 2017 evaluation was the focus of your training, where the DOJ inquired into whether your training was tailored for the audience. This added 2 requirements. The first was to assess your employees for risk to determine the type of training you might need to deliver by risk ranking your employees. Obviously, the sales force would be the highest risk, but there may be others who are deserving of high-risk training as well. From the risk ranking, you are required to develop tailored training for the risk those employees will face. The 23 ECCP spelled this out in greater detail. It stated, quote, "Prosecutors should assess periodic training and certification for all directors, officers, relevant employees, and, where appropriate, agents and business partners. Prosecutors should also assess whether the company has relayed information in a manner tailored to the audience size, sophistication, and subject matter expertise," end quote. I would suggest that you start at the beginning with an evaluation of your compliance training and move outward. This means starting with the attendance, which many companies tend to overlook. You should determine that all senior management and board members have attended compliance training. You should review the documentation and confirm attendance. Make your department or group leader accountable for the attendance of their direct reports, and so on down the chain. Evidence of training is important to create an audit trail for any internal or external assessment audit of your training program. Some of the other metrics you should consider in post-training evaluation include an increase in hotline use. Are there more calls into the compliance department requesting assistance, or even asking questions about compliance? Is there a decrease in compliance violations or other acts of noncompliance? Consider using surveys to provide feedback on not simply compliance training, but to determine the effectiveness of a much wider variety of areas for your compliance program. These surveys provide critical information on the state of your compliance program and provide substantive feedback for further inclusion back looped into your compliance regime. Testing your program and using that information in a feedback loop is another key component of a best practices compliance programs. What are espresso shots of training to help facilitate effective training? Tina Rampino, Associate Managing Director at K2 Integrity, suggests keeping your compliance segments concise, as shorter bite-sized learning is a trend in training programs. This means that instead of offering half-day and full-day sessions, break programs into shorter segments of 20 minutes or less, which are easier for the participants to absorb and schedule. Jessica Chachuga, a principal instruction designer at Diligent, suggested training effectiveness through microlearning and metrics, including the adoption of microlearning techniques for content delivery, the utilization of interruptive training methods for behavior disruption, and tailored targeting training for at-risk employees. The importance of determining the effectiveness of your compliance program has been enshrined by the DOJ. The 2023 update confirmed the DOJ wants to see evidence of effectiveness of your compliance training program. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, how and why have you tailored your compliance program and how you determine its effectiveness? Number 2, try a shot of espresso training. And number 3, present your training in local languages and utilize a variety of media. I hope you will join me tomorrow and day 17, where we talk about podcasting for compliance training and corporate culture. The Compliance Podcast Network is sponsored by Ethico. Ethico provides compliance champions like yourself an ethics and compliance optimization system built to turn goals and guidelines into real ROI for your program. To learn more, check out the following site, ethico.com/CPN. I've also linked to that in the show notes, and Ethico has a special white paper available for you on compliance issues going into 2024. So I hope you will check it out. Thank you for listening to this episode of 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program. 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program is a part of the Compliance Podcast Network.